Bonjour, bonjour! Hello everyone, welcome or welcome back. My name is Cyril. I have been a stem cell researcher for quite some time, and this is why I can tell you about the science that is behind skincare. So for today's video, I want to do a follow-up on a previous video that I've done on Japanese sunscreen, where I have discussed about 3 products from Anessa, and Anessa is a Japanese brand owned by Shiseido, and they make sunscreen. And for today's video, I'm going to review for you 3 different, almost 4 actually, sunscreen from Skin Aqua. And Skin Aqua is also one of those Japanese brands that is so well known. And Skin Aqua is a part of Roto Pharmaceuticals. And what is very interesting about it is that the sunscreen filters that they use are encapsulated using their own technology. And I would guess it is probably encapsulated using what we call silicate, which I am not sure because they do not disclose the technology, or at least I didn't find it in English. They probably talk about it in Japanese. I have heard about this encapsulation technology thanks to a blogger that I've been following for years and years. It is razilla.com, and I'm going to put the link down below in the description box. And she's a Japanese, and she does review, and also she translates Japanese product into English, and every time you also have the list of ingredients in English, which is something that is so precious to me, and this is also thanks to her that I've been able to do this review for you. So like I said in the introduction, I'm going to present you 3 sunscreen. I would say almost 4 because the last one has 2 different declinations, but they are roughly the same. And the first one is probably the one that is the most well-known and the most famous from Skin Aqua. It's the UV Super Moisturized Milk. Recently they changed the packaging, actually they only changed the color of the packaging. So before it was yellow and now it is blue, but it is the exact same formula as last year. Like the UV Perfect Sunscreen from Anessa, it is a milk texture, so it is a very watery texture that is very well known and popular in Japan because they do like some very lightweight sunscreen, and definitely in Europe but also in United States the sunscreen are very heavy and also have a greasy feeling, and those texture are definitely to die for. So the filters in this one is first of all zinc oxide. So zinc oxide is a mineral broad spectrum filters. It filters UVB, UVA type 2 and also UVA type 1, and I remind you that UVA type 1 are the UV ray that age you the most because they are the one that penetrates the deepest in the skin. Then we have octinoxate that is mainly an UVB filters, and the last one is uvinol A+, that filters UVA type 1. So overall the combination of filters is quite good, but it is a little bit lacking on the UVA type 2 department because we only have zinc oxide. It is true that octinoxide also tends to absorb some of UVA type 2, but it is not terrific, and this is the same for uvinol A+. This being said, this is still an SPF 50+ with a PA rating of 4+. So if you want to look at my review of the Anessa The Perfect Milk, you will see that this one, just in terms of filters, is far more superior than this one, and the reason is because you have more redundancy for UVB, UVA type 2 and also UVA type 1. So like I said, all sunscreen from Skin Aqua are encapsulated, which is a feature that I really love. For years I didn't try it, and the reason is because it contains octinoxate, and most of the time when I'm testing an European sunscreen with octinoxate, after 4 days of use, I start to have irritation, especially around my cheeks area, and I was a little bit scared to try this one, but I had absolutely no problem with it, and I think it's because of the encapsulation. So like I said, I cannot really talk a lot about this technology, but I have read some very interesting papers on encapsulation of filters, and in general, the encapsulation helps to decrease the concentration of filters. So with a lower concentration, you can still achieve a very high SPF. It also decreases the absorption of octinoxate. It also helps to lighten the texture because, for example, octinoxate is only soluble in lipids because it is what we call hydrophobe. So in a way, it doesn't like water. And of course, octinoxate is already greasy. So if you need to add a lipid to disperse it, you just increase the greasiness effect, like we usually find in European sunscreen, which is not the case of this one, that does feel pretty lightweight. Another advantage of encapsulation is also that it stabilizes some filters like avobenzone and here octinoxate, because octinoxate can degrade upon light exposure, but there are different ways to stabilize it. And also a huge pros is that the filters are not in direct contact with the skin thanks to the encapsulation, which is amazing. What I love about this formula is that it is ethanol free, so it does not have any alcohol, and it is also fragrance free. You don't have any extract from wheat, fruits or weird plants where your skin might react to it. The formula is mostly composed of different and complex silicone. It also contains glycerins, 2 different forms of hyaluronic acid, and also hydrolyzed collagen at the end of the formula. And this is true that this sunscreen is moisturizing. It is not super moisturizing, so I found that the title is misleading, but it is still moisturizing and not drying. Especially if you compare it to the Anessa, this one is definitely more drying than the Skin Aqua, and this one will be suitable for more people, especially for those of you who are sensitive to sunscreen filters, who have a sensitive skin, that you tend to react to a lot of things. Definitely the Skin Aqua will be more suitable for you than the Anessa. In terms of finish, the finish is pretty matte on this one, and it also has a blurring effect. The only thing that you do need to understand with this one is that it doesn't contain alcohol, but the second ingredient is cyclopentosiloxane, which is really small polymers that form like tiny pearls that can evaporate, but it does need a longer time than with alcohol that will evaporate very quickly. So with this one you need to wait a solid 10 to 15 minutes to let it evaporate. Also, a feature that is similar to the Anessa one is that it forms this invisible veil on the skin that is pretty resistant. I do not find that it is as resistant as the one from Anessa, and it is also a waterproof sunscreen. And the last feature is that it goes pretty well under makeup, also because it is a silicone base that also has a blurring effect on the skin, which is also fantastic. Because it contains zinc oxide, it can have a white cast, but it is barely invisible on my skin. I cannot notice it, even when I reapply it a lot. And it is also pretty invisible even on medium skin tone. If you have pretty dark skin, probably this one won't be for you though. I love to recommend this one if you really hate sunscreen and you do want a formula that is very safe and suitable for sensitive skin. The UV Super Moisturized Milk from Skin Aqua is almost for everybody, and this one is lovely. The second one that I want to show you is actually a declination of this one, and this is the UV Super Moisturized Milk Pink, and it does have some pigments, some pink pigments to brighten the skin tone. Even though the name and also the packaging is very reminiscent from the original one, the formula is slightly different in terms of filters. The first filters is also zinc oxide, so it filters UVB, UVA type 2 and also UVA type 1. Then it contains octinoxate, like the original one that filters UVB, and then we find titanium dioxide that is not in the first one, that filters UVB and also UVA type 2, which I really love because in this formula you have a redundancy also for UVA type 2, which is excellent, and that was not in the previous formula. Of course, because you have zinc plus titanium dioxide, the white cast is stronger with this one, and definitely this one is more targeted for those of you who have a fairer skin tone like myself. And the last one is Uvinol A+, that mainly filters UVA type 1. So I love this combination of filters, like I said, because it has redundancy. In terms of textures and finish, it is very similar to the original one, but this one tends to, I would say, dries and set faster than this one. And the reason is because even though the rest of the formula is very similar to the original one, this one also have a little bit of alcohol. I say a little bit because when I smell it, I cannot smell the solvent that evaporates. And also this one never stings my skin, even when I was with 1% retinol with my hardcore routine, my skin was perfectly fine with it. And like all Skin Aqua sunscreen, the filters are encapsulated, which I love. So the main difference between the two is of course the finish in terms of color correcting, because this one has those pink pigment that, so it's going to brighten the skin tone and has this little pink hue to the skin that is very pleasant. This is actually my favorite one from all the Skin Aqua, and I love to use this one, especially on bare skin. If I don't want to wear any makeup, this one really makes the skin really beautiful, and it has like almost this rosy feeling, but it is barely visible. I love the finish of this one. Something that I forgot to mention is that this one also has no fragrance and no potential irritant. Just know that there is a little bit of alcohol that will likely not be a problem, but it's still important to mention it. So the last one that I want to mention is this one, the Skin Aqua Tone Up UV Essence, and this one exists in two different colors. So this one, this is the mint colors, this is the new one with the new formula, and you also have the lavender one that has a purple hue to it. They call it like a lavender. So those one also has some color correcting pigments in it. So the mint one, because it is green, this is the opposite color of red, so it's going to conceal some of the redness, while this one, the lavender one, is the opposite color of yellow, so it tends to brighten the skin tone. Both of them are very elegant in terms of correction. You will not have like a very strong white cast, but bear in mind that if you have a medium skin tone, definitely the white cast for both of them will be stronger for sure, especially compared to the UV super moisturized milk. Two other main differences between this and the milk are, first of all, the texture, because they are creams and they are I would say less easy to blend, even though the texture is very lovely. This is a cream that glides also beautifully on the skin, but because it is a cream, it is harder to spread it compared to a milk that is so lightweight, which is something that is actually excellent, because you don't want to have a streaky application. You want to pack the sunscreen on and you want the sunscreen to stay in place, to have like an homogeneous layer of protective sunscreen on your skin. Also, if you have a beard, those one tends to slightly cling to the hair, so you will need to massage it a little bit longer than the milk. So in terms of filters, it has octinoxate as a UVB filters. Then it has Tinoxop S, it filters UVB, UVA type 2 and also UVA type 1. Then it has Uvinol T150, which is a beautiful UVB absorbent. And the last one is titanium dioxide that absorb UVB and also UVA type 1. My main concern about those one, it is a bit similar with the original one, is that you only have one filters for UVA type 1, and I remind you that UVA type 1 are the UV that age you the most. Still, like I said, it is still an SPF of 50 plus with a PA rating of 4+, and also Tinoxop S is one of the best filters that we currently have. So compared to the previous version of especially the lavender one, what have changed is actually the new one does not contain any alcohol, and therefore the formula is much more emollient and much more moisturizing, to the point that you do not need to add a moisturizer unless you have severe dry skin. In terms of finish, the main difference between the UV Essence and the milk from Skin Aqua is that the milk is definitely more matte. Something that is also very important is that they works pretty well under makeup. I have only one disclaimer, and you need to be very careful with them, is that they tend to peel very easily, especially when you are using product with hyaluronic acid. So for instance, I cannot use my beloved toner from Adalabo, which is the Premium Lotion. And there's something in the formula that destabilizes the sunscreen, and therefore I have like all those little balls of a sunscreen, which is something that you really do not want. In terms of allergen, they do contain perfume, and actually the perfume is not super strong, but it's going to stay for a very long time. Even after 2 to 3 hours, I can still smell the perfume, so this is something that you need to consider, especially if you have if you have sensitive skin. Something that is always important, like I said, is that those ones are milk and are very watery. Therefore, to apply them, I do advise you to apply a first heavy coat, then wait 5 to 10 minutes and reapply a second one. And the reason is because those type of texture, those very milk texture, can lead to a streaky application, which is something that you do not want. One last thing, and it is about the PA rating and the difference between a European sunscreen. In Europe, to evaluate the UVA protection, we use what we call the COLIPA method, which is an in vitro method to get the PPD value, so basically the UVA protection factors. In Japan, they use the in vivo methods to determine the PPD on real people, like the SPF. Both methods actually lead to the exact same results. The reasons why it is not done in Europe is because these methods can only be done on phototype 3, if I'm not mistaken, or more, because you do need to have already pigments on your skin to see the darkening of those pigments. In Europe, by the law, when you have an SPF of 50 plus, so an SPF of 60 or above, the UVA protection should be 1/3 of it. So it means, like with any SPF 50 plus in Europe, you will have a PPD value of 20 or above. In Japan, a PPD value of 16 or above will translate into 4 pluses. Therefore, you can have 2 sunscreens with an SPF of 50 plus and a PA rating of 4 pluses, but maybe this one will have a PPD value of 20 or above, while this one will only be of 16. And this is something that we cannot know in advance, which is why I always tend to recommend, when you will be exposed to a lot of suns, to use an European sunscreen and not a Japanese sunscreen or any Asian sunscreen for instance. This being said, if you don't like sunscreen, if you hate them, go for Japanese sunscreen and use the Anessa when you will be exposed to a lot of sun. I have used this one many times, even when I was under extreme condition of sun. I've never had any sunburn and any darkening of my skin, and also tested on my friend, and he has medium skin tone. I didn't see any visible darkening of his skin tone, so I would say it is reassuring. And use the Skin Aqua on a daily basis and choose them according to also the texture that you like. So this one is very lightweight. If you prefer something that is creamier and very moisturizing and very pleasant to use, go for the Tone Up Essence. So comment down below if you have ever tried one of those Japanese sunscreen. My next video will be on another Japanese. So tell me down below if you have ever tried one of those Japanese sunscreen. I will make a future videos, probably this week, on the Ali sunscreen, and I have 2 that are pretty excellent, especially one. Definitely the texture and also the technology of Japanese sunscreen are very outstanding and also very different from what we also have in the rest of the world. If you like this video, please thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to ring the bell to not miss any of my new videos. You can also follow me on Instagram. I am Cyril Laurent. I thank you so much for watching me, and I will see you next time. Au revoir, bye bye.